starting out, even when he was a kid, like he didn't have the best life. Like his dad beat the crap out of him. Like his dad was an abusive figure in that house.
Yeah, he was. And the most disturbing of the abuses that I, like, at least that I read, was that his dad, as a form of punishment, would take him as a child and chain him to a tombstone in the cemetery and make
Well,
him stay there all night long. Like, how traumatizing would that be to be a child that is seeking comfort for whatever reason that, like his punishment was for? Seeking comfort, that he had to seek it from a tombstone alone, chained to, in the dark. Like, cemeteries are scary for me, walking in the
yeah, for me
daytime.
too.
Like, that's absolutely horrible. And I don't know where his father would have gotten that from, but like, I just,
To,
I can't imagine.
really, really, to leave a kid out there all night, like another thing, like it got to a point to where Richard he felt it more comfortable to go and sleep at the graveyard than he did his own house. So almost he like that's another thing. Now he's starting to feel safer sleeping in the graveyard than at his own house.
With
You
his own
know?
family, like with his own
Yeah,
family members, he feels safer alone. And with the unalived, like they're all dead there. They're
yeah,
not there to seek comfort, like he was alone. And that's sad to me. And it just keeps getting worse from there. Like the trauma pattern just keeps getting worse as this unfolds. So
yep.
his next family member that was, very impactful on him and his growth, like if you talk about nature versus nurture,
Hmm.
um, and that was his cousin Mike. You know about his cousin Mike, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Mike, he was a again, like you said, that was his cousin, and he was a Vietnam vet. Coming home, he was a war hero first and foremost. But like the problem happened when like he brought these like pictures home, these like war trophies type of stuff. Like something wasn't right with him mentally. Like maybe he was going through some kind of like PTSD or something.
Bro,
But
like for
yeah,
real. Okay, so going back on that, like the pictures that he showed this young child, this 12-year-old middle schooler, were pictures of, like, I just want to point out that my kids don't even look at ghost pictures, like all of
mm,
my son is 11, essentially the same age, and he was showing him pictures of decapitated people, um, people that he assaulted, people that he murdered, literally brutally murdered, and all of these pictures were compiled, and he was oozing over them, showing Richard, like, this is what I did, this is what I can do, this is my power, and Richard just ate all of that up. At middle school, trying to find yourself, trying to understand what all is going on, like, on top of that, he has an idol that for everybody
yeah,
else can see that is a very toxic individual, a very sick
yeah.
individual. I don't know if it was PTSD. I don't know what exactly his, cousin was going through at the time, but I do know that it was very damaging to an already damaged Richard.
Yeah, and that's not where it ends. First he's showing Richard these pictures, all kinds of just very graphic pictures, but then it like all culminates to this like one night Richie's over the house, which he's over there all the time now. He'd rather be there than at home. So Richard's over there, and there's an argument going on
Hmm.
between Mike and his wife. They're arguing going on about like finances or something, going back and forth. And it gets to the point to where Mike just walks off angry and goes in the kitchen to grab his gun.
Yeah, so apparently he just left that gun in the freezer like it was a normal thing in their household, to threaten other people with guns.
Yeah.
Like,
What's up with the gun in the freezer, by the way? Do you know?
I
Or
don't know, but I personally know that you're not supposed to be putting they will rust. Like, there's condensation in the freezer,
yeah,
and, like, taking apart a gun, like, that's not a good thing. But I don't know why he stuck it in the freezer, but that was very readily accessible for them in that moment, of the heat of passion or whatever. to where he said he was going to shoot her, and she was like, bro, bet, like, if you're going to do it, do it. And he didn't think of it. He literally was just like, all right, bye.
No
None.
hesitation.
His partner, his wife, somebody that he, literally signed a contract for, he just ended her life just right there, point blank, and didn't feel anything about it. And just, after the investigation, they asked Richard, and he also had no feelings towards this murder. That he
Just stone cold, huh?
absolutely, he was going through the motions and was just like, this is what happened, blood splattered. Like, even the investigators back then, when he was 12 years old, looked at him like, something's not right here. Like, I don't know, something about this kid's just a little
Hmm.
off, to where he has absolutely no emotion, no emotional connection to this absolute horrible thing that happened in front of him. That red flag. So, red flag.
Yeah, it's getting dark.
Yeah.
It's getting dark. That's not the last time he steps in that house. First he witnesses that murder, and then next up he's back at that house with his father to, I guess, pick up some things, and there's still like bloodstains on the carpets, and there's this like smell of death in the air. He mentions like that smell of blood or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and like he's like saying words that, like, I don't know exactly what he said, but he's like saying things like, "Oh, it's like he's enjoying that smell." So that's kind of
I've
off.
smelt that smell. I mean, like, a lot of, I cannot, my dad was a firefighter, and like, he smelt that smell, and that is just something you will never forget. But I can tell you one thing, that is not something you would put in a candle, okay? It's not something that you would enjoy as a normal human being. Like,
Yeah.
that is not a good smell to smell. That's alarming to me. And didn't when they went back to that house, didn't he like burglarize the house too? Like, him and his dad?
Yeah, like his dad. Yeah, so they like initially went there to just like just grab some things that he had that Richie had left over. But then his dad's like another example of his great parenting. His dad's like, go ahead and look for jewelry around the house, and just take whatever you want. So his father's teaching him like to steal and stuff like that, and I think we also like, so did we even like cover what happened to Mike? He just shot his wife. Like, what happens like next with that? Like,
Okay,
like what happened?
he actually, so after this, a family affair that he is stealing from Mike and everything, Mike doesn't go to prison. Mike doesn't get death row. Mike doesn't, he pleads insanity, which, I mean, in his case, maybe because of the war and everything, but um in my opinion, he got it out scot free, and it did more damage to Richard in this case, because Richard is seeing now that his idol didn't get prison time. He got the mental institution and then was released in the 80s. So he
Yeah.
got to see his idol do what he said he was going to do, be top dog, and then get out scot free, with this other, his partner that is now passed away. So,
Yeah. It yeah, and it's all starting to form and develop. I'm not here to say, I'm not here to give serial killers, any killers excuses, but
right.
you start looking at all these things like, the way they're raised and stuff, and it's just like, look at all these influence he has in his life. Like, so we just got done talking about how um his cousin killed his wife, but now Richard, he's tired of living with his dad, so he reaches out to his sister, and his sister's like, yeah, come live over here, hoping it will be better for him. But he gets another bad influence in his life with Roberto, his sister's husband. Roberto is a peeping tom, like, so
Oh my
he's
gosh.
in trees, like looking into windows, like peeping into women standing outside of windows. So now, on top of that, Roberto is slowly starting to bring Richard with him on his peeping tom excursions.
So at this point, Richard is still in like middle school, high school, and he's staying
That's a good point.
like
At this age, all this is happening and he's only 12, 13 years old.
yeah.
Like,
And he's going from one abusive person to another abusive to another toxic. So he's like, I feel like he's gathering like a tool belt of all of these bad things, and
a
just
tool
like
belt, yeah.
that. Honestly, was it a family excursion? Like that's another thing. Like, so did his wife know, or did his sister know that this was going on? Like,
So the wife knew, and like I think I even read somewhere where, or I saw a video where she would tell them, "You like y'all need to cut this out. Like this is stop doing this." But how much could she really do? Regardless of what she said, they just
please
continued to
stop
do it.
violating the Los Angeles County. Please stop
Please.
violating them. I mean, I understand
So
like there's 2 against 1 here, but like that alone would be a red flag for me as a wife and a sister. But
yeah, you're right. So it just he's in a different place now, but it's still going downhill for him. Like his grades are not great. He's barely showing up. He does get a job. He's going to a job at the Holiday Inn. But yet again, we have another bad influence. I don't know this dude's name, but it was someone he was working with.
mhm.
Gave him a master key. So
To the
he would use
hotel?
that master, yeah, to the hotel. So he would go into these hotel rooms and just start stealing, burglarizing things, taking whatever he wants, and on some occasions, look in on people, continue that peeping Tom thing.
I don't like where this is going. Like, I really don't like where, because I feel like he has these opportunities to do better or to get out of it. And then he, like, you said he had a job, and I was like, all right, he's got a job, and you're like, but, but, and I know that after this is his first, like, his first real crime that he commit. I didn't say real crime, but like his
Yeah,
first big crime that he commits at this hotel.
yeah, yeah. So what happens is, he's got that master key, and this is a big moment here because he gets the master key. He's just like usual. He's going into these rooms,
Mhm.
but this one he goes in and he sees a woman and he's peeping on her. But you know he takes it a step further. The first time he takes a step further, and now he's like not only peeping, but he's like trying to assault her and put his hands on her. But she wasn't alone. Her husband was just downstairs. So when the husband came up, he was like, whoa, just he cut the situation out, and the cops were called.
Yeah. The cops were called, and then there was a charge that was filed for him. And after all of that, after, all of the trauma that he put that poor woman and that husband through, they were travelers. So when the trial was going, they didn't show up as witnesses, and so they dropped the charge.
I just feel like you should still get in some form of, there's got to still be something that happens to you. Just because they don't want to show up, you get off scot-free. Like,
Right. And I mean, I understand that they were travelers. They didn't want to go back to a different state. I'm sure that costs money and everything else just to put this guy in jail. Like, I completely get that. But watching what unfolds after this crime is like, maybe you should have just, hitched a ride back.